sort of talking about a different way to think about animal health and how animal health affects sustainability. It almost takes, you need to take almost a step up to think about it.
Welcome to MeatsPad, a platform dedicated to sharing breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the meats industry. On each episode, we will hear from meat specialists and professionals to talk about numerous topics in meat science. This podcast is brought to you by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, the National Provisioner, Ultrasource, the new standard for innovation,
IFA, Meat Processing Power.
Viscofan is a global leader and innovative partner in the food industry who provides solutions for the casing market.
Hi, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. This is Phil Bass. I'm flying solo today. Francisco is out there making the world a better place for meat enthusiasts such as us. And so he's left me on my own. And as a result, what I like to do is go find my friends and talk to my friends. And so with us today is a longtime friend and former colleague from graduate school, Dr. Jessica Meisinger. She's an avid reader, and I want to make sure we touch on that at some point. But then also, she is our North American sustainability lead for Merck Animal Health. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, this has been a long time coming. Your name has been on our list for quite some time, and I finally got the right timing and everything. And so this is going to be good. We're going to get into your background at some point because you have a really cool meat science story from the beginning almost. But before we get into that, let's just get right into the meat, as the pun would say, and tell us about your role with Merck Animal Health.
Okay, so my role is really exciting. I am currently the North American Sustainability Lead, but I was the only person in animal health who had sustainability in my title at all. So
Okay.
I've been doing all of the sustainability strategy and making sure it's all pulled together for animal health as a whole. Because of course, we're just a piece of a larger company. So we're one of the only animal health companies that's still owned by its human health side.
Okay.
And hasn't been spun off, which is fantastic because it gives us a lot more opportunities than we would have otherwise.
Yeah, a lot of power there to be able to collaborate within, right?
Absolutely, and deeper pockets.
That doesn't hurt either, right? So I will confess for you, before we started recording, for the listeners out there, Jessica was excited to start talking about kind of the really cool things that the animal health community provides to not just the animals and the meat, but the world in general, and how we're kind of pulling all that stuff together. And so, Jessica, take it away, kind of along the lines you were thinking earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been sort of talking about a different way to think about animal health and how animal health affects sustainability. It almost takes, you need to take almost a step up to think about it. So animal health affects the animal in four main ways. It affects growth, reproduction, quality, and then of course mortality. So each of those things, if you think about growth, if I need an animal to reach a certain weight by I either need, and it doesn't, it's sick, so it's not growing correctly. I either need more time for the animal to get there, or I need more animals so I can reach that poundage or that amount of eggs or that milk, whatever it is. And so each day or each animal has a sustainability cost to it. And we're not just talking about greenhouse gases. People get way too caught up in greenhouse gases. It's not just greenhouse gases. It's manure, it's land, it's feed and water, it's the labor that each of those animals takes. It's all of it. And so you want your animals to be growing correctly. So it's same with reproduction. If the animal isn't getting pregnant, you need more animals. If they're having stillbirths, that's a problem. And so that's affected as well. Quality. If an animal has mastitis and you're dumping the milk, I can't get a more clear vision of food waste than dumping milk down a drain because of your numbers. So it's a clear problem. If you have an abscess on an animal and you have to throw that meat out, it's food waste. And then mortality, the worst that can happen. I feel guilty when I throw away half a sandwich that I didn't get eaten in time. A 1,400-pound steer is more food waste than I'm ever going to be impacting in my day-to-day life. So we are part of this conversation. I think that we're left out sometimes, and we shouldn't be. Keeping these animals healthy lowers food waste, and it lowers it in a very real way. The farmers want to keep the animal healthy. They want to do it because they care about their animals, and they want to do it because of their pocketbook. And so this is just another piece that goes with that.
Well, and oh my gosh, I mean, this there's so much to that, because so you talked about exactly what we focus on probably the most in the animal world, which is the growth side of things. And there's some amazing technologies, growth promoting technologies that are available to us. And that's the bottom line for most farmers and ranchers. Of course, you also mentioned the reproductive side of things, and there's some great pharmaceuticals out there and technologies that have been advancing to help us with reproductive efficiencies. Because, like you said, if you don't have a calf on the ground, if you don't have that litter of piglets,
if 3 of your piglets are mummified,
right,
it has an impact.
Yep. So you're providing feed and resources and and that animal's alive, drinking water, creating manure, and all those things. And we're not making food.
The inputs are not just there on a pregnant animal. They're higher. I mean, they have higher requirements. And so they're taking more and more in. It's expected to be offset. If it isn't offset, there is a cost to that. And it's very real.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, and then you bring up the great point of we have to maintain overall animal health for homeostasis reasons and keeping that animal from perishing, because, like you said, a 1,400-pound steer, that's going to be probably close to 500 pounds of boneless meat product in the end that now can't be used, and then all the offals and byproducts that could have been used, and now that has to go to rendering, which is okay
if it goes to rendering.
If it even goes to
rendering, how it dies, depending on the age of the animal, depending on all that, it might not even get there. And so it's just a terrible waste, and it's a waste that we all on our side, all farmers, all meat scientists, all that, we see it. It's a sad thing. But I don't think the public always gets that we have part of this discussion.
Right. Okay. So these are awesome topics, and clearly we could make it a semester-long class out of this, but we don't have that time.
Yeah, I love this topic.
Right. Well, okay. So tell us a little bit, if you can, just take us into a little bit more detail how Merck Animal Health or the animal health industry in general is helping with that sustainability. What are things that you regularly are talking about with either clients or just audiences in general?
So from a product standpoint, preventative medicine. The more you can do to prevent the animal from getting sick in the first place. So your vaccination routines and things like that. The better we can keep our animal healthy, it's so much better to just not get sick than to have to heal from being sick. So we really focus a lot on preventative medicine.
Okay.
And then, of course, Merck has been going real into the technology space. So we have a lot of monitoring solutions and things like that so that you can objectively know what you're managing in your program.
You can't manage what you don't measure. Right?
Absolutely.
Well, and that's a really interesting direction. That's some outside of the box thinking from the animal health world. It's not just the pharmaceuticals, it's helping to manage the animal in general. With those with those management strategies, not only with just weights and observing growth patterns and things like that, but will those management strategies also help with making animal health decisions, so like vaccination programs.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And making sure that you vaccinate well, and that you're only treating who needs it, so that we're not
Right.
over medicating. That's a social issue on its own, but it's a real one. We don't need to be giving extra medication to animals who aren't sick. But you need a lot of insight on the animal for that, and it's hard. And so we've seen where we've been able to monitor for animal welfare, and sustainability is just another piece of that puzzle. How can we help you make your decisions?
Mm-hmm. So, and when you mention sustainability, and you've kind of already alluded to this, but within the Merck Animal Health world, can you define sustainability a little bit more?
Well, when I'm talking about it, I'm usually talking about environmental sustainability.
Okay.
But we do look at it as the trifecta of environmental sustainability, social responsibility, and economic viability. It's where those three things merge that sustainability happens. We can't have anything in environmental sustainability if the public doesn't understand and accept it. It also gives us a bigger license to operate. When the general public understands what we're doing, then they will support us in it. On top of that, we're a business. We need to make money.
Yep.
So the economic viability has to be there. If we can't help a farmer be economically viable, they just are going to fail. And there's nothing sustainable about a farm going out of business.
The mission of USMEF is to increase the value and profitability of the U.S. beef, pork, and lamb industries by enhancing demand for their products in export markets through a dynamic partnership of all stakeholders. Simply put, USMEF is putting U.S. meat on the world's table.
Well, and that goes for any business out there.
Business.
So for even our I don't want to say little, let's say small sausage producer out there, and not as in small sausages as in tiny.
They're not
Vienna
making
sausages,
Vienna sausages.
but small as in volume.
Yeah, sure.
Company. That goes for anybody. If your customer is not satisfied and finding value in your product, that's not sustainable. You're not going to sell it again, obviously.
No, they have to find the value and they have to know you care.
Yep.
And I know we hear a lot of pushback about generational differences and millennials and younger liking transparency. Well, we're geriatric millennials, and I do like transparency. And so when I feel like a company truly cares and they're listening to me, I'm willing to give them more. I'm willing to give them more time to prove what they're doing. And Merck Animal Health wants to be there. We are the most environmentally sustainable company, and we want to prove it.
Yeah. Well, you're bringing all the right topics to the floor here. And I want to remind our listeners out there, especially for the processors and those who have direct consumer relations, to really consider that whole environmental or the whole sustainability question in general, because it comes up. This isn't just a hard, direct meat science type answer that we're looking at here. This is something that connects all of animal agriculture and all of agriculture for that matter. And so oftentimes the butcher shop down the road or the retail store is going to be that expert in the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why it's important that we are having this conversation, even on a show that's defines meat science. I mean, that's what we talk about. So very important to just continually communicate that we have organizations out there or associations or groups out there like Merck Animal Health that's helping to continue to just make the world a better place with the products and services that they provide, so that we can have healthy animals, healthy and safe food, and healthy, safe food that's also affordable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we're in this industry because we love it. And we care. And we want to work with partners that love it and care as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take it just a little bit different spin here, because we are MeatsPad, and you, Jessica, are a meat scientist. how do you use that background and that role as a meat scientist in your day-to-day? Or is it maybe something that got you to
Oh,
where you are
no,
now?
it's so important. I
Yeah.
can tell you one place that just came up, one place that most people don't ever consider. So my role of sustainability, I have to tie all parts of the company together. So, I'm sitting in commercial working with our products, but I work on a daily basis with manufacturing, with the research labs, with human health, and with corporate. So I'm not siloed at all.
Yeah.
A lot of times people in commercial jobs don't have any insight into manufacturing. They've never entered a plant. They've never seen manufacturing before. Almost every meat scientist has.
Yeah.
We've been in plants. We've worked them. I mean, it might be for different amounts of time, but we've all been there. And I can tell you that my time spent in packing plants has a very real impact on my day-to-day time with our manufacturing because I understand it more. I understand what some of these minor changes aren't minor, and they're going to take a lot. And so I think that I have a greater respect for that. And that's very specific to our training. Meat science puts it really focuses on things like manufacturing. It focuses on public speaking. It focuses on making sure that you can take big issues and condense them so that other people understand them. And so those things matter a lot. And so even though in my day-to-day life, I'm not necessarily talking about meat, I am using every piece of being a meat scientist.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I regularly preach to my students in my day job at the University of Idaho, but then also any young or up and coming folks within our beloved association, American Meat Science Association, is get out there and just learn as much as you can and be a jack of all trades. That's what Dr. Belk taught us.
And meet people.
Yeah,
Call
and meet
them,
people.
talk to them.
Right.
Chris Calkins always said, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And it's really, really true. Just send that email. I know I personally am always happy to have a conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'm not ready to wrap this conversation up yet, but that is absolutely true about you, and I'm going to brag about you, even though you're sitting here listening. Is that Dr. Jessica Meisinger is not at all bashful about talking about all of these topics within meat science, but especially the hard ones. And you've regularly been invited to be a speaker in not just preaching to the choir settings, but evangelizing areas, right?
Definitely.
in areas that really truly need to hear about this. And so I don't know. I mean, this is way off of my list of notes that I wanted to ask you, but do you want to talk a little bit about some of those other opportunities, speaking engagements that you've worked with in the past to spread the word? Yeah, exactly.
Sure. It can be scary. It's easier to go into a conversation that everyone's more or less on your side. But, I grew up in the meat industry, and my dad never turned down an opportunity that he had. He talked to some highly antagonistic groups. And, we always think about that 2% that's very loud and holds the microphone. But you never know who might be listening on the sidelines. So it's important to have these conversations. One time that I think of off the top of my head was a science fiction convention. I got invited to speak at it by a friend of mine, and I thought, well, that seems neat. I've always wanted to talk at a NASA event. So I go. I feel they tricked all the attendees. It was really not a science fiction convention. It was just a science convention. Yeah. Here, we've got you now. Let's talk science. It was about the future, where we were allowed to be futurists, which was very exciting, and where we saw the industry going. It was a full ballroom, and these people were totally interested in learning. I was coming at it from the National Renderers Association. I can guarantee you no one in that room had ever heard of rendering before. And it didn't matter. They were interested that we in the meat industry were taking everything and using it. And that's what they wanted to hear. They wanted to ask questions about that sort of thing. And it wasn't a negative experience. It was a good experience. I've been on NPR. I've been on CBC. I had an attitude that if you called me, I'd talk to you. And I'm not going to lie. So if you ask me a question, even if the answer is not wonderful, I'm still going to tell you what it is, because it's way worse to lie and lose that trust than it is to just tell you the thing that might not be ideal, but we're working on.
Yeah.
And so some of those were really, really fun. I've been in front of different audiences that have never heard of Meat Science, where you get all the stupid jokes that they think they're making for the first time, but you've heard for 20 years. But you roll your eyes and just move on. Yeah. They're interested. It's exciting. I know, Phil, you've done so much work with chefs. That's an audience that is looked at as experts. Yeah, I might argue that they shouldn't be, but and I say that as someone who's married to a chef, right, by the way.
Let's qualify that.
Yeah, I might say that they shouldn't be looked at for that information, but they are. So how can we help them?
Well, and that's a great point too, because so you made a really good point. You never know who's listening.
You never know who's listening.
If you do know who's listening, and you know that they are respected experts in their community or in their region or industry or whatever that is, help them understand, because almost always do they want to learn more. So
yes, having a snobbish, pretentious attitude about it has not gotten us anywhere as an industry. So
yeah,
just help them.
Not bashful, folks, right?
It's fun. Some of these conversations, it's a two-way street. Yep. We learn too, and it's much better when you can humble yourself and understand where they're coming from and why they're asking those questions. Some people aren't coming from an honest place, and we all know that, but most people are.
Yeah. Most people are, yeah. Well, and be real. And I mean, gosh, I don't know anybody more real than you, Jessica. So wear it on your sleeve for sure.
For better or worse.
For better or worse, yeah. You will never lie. That's one thing. You always tell the truth. I want to ask just a little bit more background things from you. Because for those who don't know Dr. Jessica Meisinger, first off, shame on you. No, I'm kidding. But meet her if you have the opportunity. Please do meet her, because fascinating individual. But then also, MeatsPad is the official podcast of the American Meat Science Association, and as I said, it's near and dear to my heart, and I know it is to you as well, Jessica.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your background, either in an unofficial and official capacity of being a member of the American Meat Science Association community.
So I've been involved in AMSA since I was in utero. Mm-hmm. My dad is a long time member. He was an AMSA treasurer for like a decade. He worked for the National Pork Producers Council, National Pork Board for my childhood. So I grew up in the meat industry. I was always interested in it. I've been interested and involved in sustainability since high school. It was not popular when I was in high school at all, by the way. So I am glad that society has caught up with that. I got all 3 degrees. So I got my undergrad at Iowa State, my master's degree at the University of Nebraska, and then my PhD at Colorado State. I got my first job out of college after that. I was recruited straight out by the National Renderers Association to be their communications director. I have never taken a communications course. So that was a whole lot of on-the-job learning. It was like boot camp. And by the end of my 6.5 years in DC, I had done everything. I'd done educational modules and webinars, and I was our liaison with social media and traditional media. I did the website. It was just, if you can come up with it, if it's next to communications at all, I've done it. So that's when I always tell people, if you can broaden what you know, if you can take those communications courses, they will always be helpful. So then I got recruited by Merck Animal Health, and I left at that as an opportunity for a greater stage. And so I I grew the communications job at the Renders out of nothing. I started it and I grew it. I think had you asked me at the end of that if I would ever take a job and grow it out of nothing again, I would have said no, but here I am. And so I've been growing the sustainability role at Merck. We have a sustainability center of excellence in the corporate side. I'm just growing it within the animal health piece, which is important. When you're talking about emissions, like scope 3 emissions, look at the entire value chain. They weren't looking at the farmer at all or the producer, and they need to be. They didn't know that. So you can bring your animal health knowledge into all these other jobs that aren't directly meat science, but definitely it's important. So my background is super broad. I've always seen myself as an animal scientist first, the meat scientist second, as a specialty within, and now I see myself as a food scientist and an animal scientist, and then and a meat scientist. So it's all of them.
Yeah. Like I said, folks out there need to get to meet you because of your extensive background, but then also you're not bashful about talking about the industry, but you're clearly not bashful about being given a job that you got to start from scratch and start from nothing. But I say this regularly, that I think the meat science community is grateful to have you as a voice and as a member of our American Meat Science Association, obviously as well. And so it's important that we continue to just tell the story. That's my day-to-day mission, is to preach the good word of meat and the benefits
and
of it.
And personalize it. You do that a lot, and it's great. Tell us, what does it matter to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Why does this matter?
Yep.
And tell the stories. That kind of stuff makes an impact.
Yeah. Well, and that's why you're on right now. We got to hear. We have to hear this stuff. You said you weren't a communications major and you hadn't really specialized in that area, but I think some of your pastimes or avocations have greatly prepared you for what you did with the National Renders Association, but then also what you do today. And I just want to ask, just because I know you're an avid reader, and to impress upon your well-readedness, how many books on average do you read a year, Jessica?
200.
200. Oh my gosh. I'll be lucky if I get through 200 pages in a year. So that's so along those lines, never stop learning. Right?
Yeah, no, always. And it doesn't matter what you're reading. I read a lot of trash. I'm the first to say that. I'm the person who's watching The Housewives and reading the trash. And we need some time for our brain to relax. I'm not ashamed of it. But just read and learn, because there's always things you can get from other groups.
Yeah.
The more we can get outside of our comfort zone, the stronger we're going to be in all parts of our life. So I truly believe that, and it's fun. It's fun to learn new things.
I remember a coach in high school, my wrestling coach, that always said, when you're working hard enough or working outside of your comfort zone, that's when you're actually growing. And you're absolutely right. So everyone out there, keep learning, keep reading, keep growing, keep working a little bit near and beyond your comfort zone if you can, because that truly is when you're going to grow. And we're all grateful that Jessica's not afraid to do that and get the good word out there about animal production. And of course, having a meat scientist at that helm is truly beneficial, I think, as well. We're jack of all trades. So. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely, at RMC.
Yep, RMC. So Reciprocal Meat Conference. For those of you who are out there that don't know that yet, but Reciprocal Meat Conference, and this year it's going to be in the center of the universe, right? Des Moines, Iowa.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I live in Des Moines now, so it's right here. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Easy.
Well, thank you so much, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.